The road teaches you a few things. First, coffee is only as good as the pot it's brewed in, and most pots in this country have seen better days. Second, the shortest route on a map is rarely the fastest. And third, every long stretch of asphalt has its ghosts, not the spooky, chain-rattling kind, but stories. Stories that stick to the air like diesel fumes, passed down from one generation of driver to the next over chipped mugs and lukewarm chili. I heard this one for the first time at a place just outside of Memphis, a real greasy spoon where the vinyl on the booths was cracked like a dry riverbed. I was young then, full of piss and vinegar, thinking my 18-wheeler was the king of the road, and I was the emperor behind the wheel. I was sitting across from an old-timer they called Pops. His face was a road map of its own, creased and weathered from a million miles of staring through a windshield. He was stirring his coffee, a slow, circular motion that seemed to take an eternity. "You ever run the old Highway 61 bridge, just south of Vicksburg?" he asked, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "The old truss bridge." "No," I said, taking a bite of my burger. "They tell us to take the I-20 crossing. Faster, safer." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Faster? Maybe. Safer? That depends on your definition." That's how it started. He leaned forward, his eyes clouded with something I couldn't place. Memory, or maybe fear. He told me the bridge had a name among the old guard, the Taker's Span, or sometimes the Keeper's Bridge. "It's an old iron beast," he said, "one of those bridges that sings when the wind hits it just right. It hums a tune that gets in your bones." "The rule is simple," Pop said, his spoon finally clinking against the side of his mug. "When your front tires hit the deck plates on one side, you look to the other, and you'll see his." "See who?" I asked, leaning in despite myself. "Nobody knows," he whispered, and the diner suddenly felt a whole lot colder. Just a figure, a dark shape, like a man standing at the far end. The moment you see him, he starts walking, coming right for you. He don't run, he don't rush. Just a slow, steady walk, like he's got all the time in the world. He took a long sip of his coffee. "The game is, you gotta get your rig off that bridge before he reaches you. You gotta beat him to the halfway point. You put your foot down, you listen to that engine scream, and you fly across that old iron." I chuckled, a nervous sound. "And what happens if you don't? If he gets to you first?" Pops put his mug down and looked me dead in the eye. The jovial old man was gone, replaced by someone who had stared into a dark place and never quite looked away. "Nobody knows," he said again, his voice barely audible. "Because the ones who don't make it, they don't have a story to tell. Their rigs are found, usually a day or so later, parked neat as you please on the shoulder just past the bridge. Engines cold, logbooks on the seat, but the driver vanished, gone, like they were never there at all." I tried to laugh it off, a campfire story for truckers, but the way he told it, it unsettled me. I finished my meal and left Pop sitting there, staring into his empty coffee cup. I forgot about it. Or I tried to. A week later, I was hauling a load of machine parts down to New Orleans. A storm had washed out a section of I-55. My dispatcher crackled over the radio, "Got a route for you. Take the exit for Highway 61. There's an old bridge over the Mississippi there that'll put you back on track." My blood ran cold. The Keeper's Bridge. And I was driving straight for it. The sun was bleeding out on the horizon by the time I got near. The turnoff for the bridge was barely marked. Trees crowded the road. Then I saw it. It rose out of the twilight like the skeleton of some colossal, prehistoric beast. Black iron girders formed a cage against the bruised sky. I slowed the truck to a crawl, remembering what Pops had said. "When your front tires hit the deck plates, you look. Thump dash thump. The sound of my front wheels rolling onto the metal grating echoed in the cab. My eyes snapped to the far end. And he was there. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was a figure, a silhouette of a man, perfectly still, standing right at the edge where the iron met the land. For a heartbeat, We were at a blow. Then he moved. He took a step, then another. A slow, deliberate, unhurried pace. Coming for me. My foot slammed the accelerator to the floor. The Cummins engine roared to life, a desperate bellow that shook the entire bridge. The truck surged forward. The world narrowed to the lane in front of me and that approaching figure. The girders flashed by my windows. The sound of the tires on the metal grating was a deafening, high-pitched scream. I was pushing 65 miles an hour on a bridge that probably wasn't rated for half that. But he just kept coming. His pace never changed. Yet the distance between us was closing far too fast. He was getting bigger. I could start to make out the shape of him now. Tall, lean. He didn't seem to have a face. The halfway point. I had to beat him there. He was 100 yards away. 50. The air in the cab grew impossibly cold. I risked a glance. He was right there, just outside my window. I couldn't see a face, no eyes, nothing. Just an overwhelming sense of emptiness. I roared past the center of the bridge just as he drew level with my driver's side door. I didn't dare look. Thump. The rear wheels of my trailer hit solid ground. I was across. I didn't slow down. Finally, I pulled over onto the shoulder, my hands shaking. I sat there drenched in sweat. It was real. You don't just walk away from something like that. It stays with you. I became obsessed. At truck stops, I started asking the old-timers about the Vicksburg Bridge. Most gave me a blank look. A few would get a strange, guarded expression and tell me to stick to the interstate. One night, I was talking on the CB. On a whim, I threw it out there. Anyone on this channel ever crossed that old iron bridge down by Vicksburg? The channel went dead silent. Then a voice crackled through. It was old, distorted. The Keeper's Bridge, the voice rasped. You don't talk about the Keeper's Bridge on an open channel? Why not? I asked. Because some things. They listen. The voice said. You made the crossing, didn't you, son? I can hear it in your voice. I did, I admitted. What is it? What's the story behind it? The voice came back, fainter this time. Ain't no story. It's a toll. There was a driver back in the 50s. Fella named Jack, Smiling Jack, they called him. Brakes failed him on the grade down to the bridge. Went right through the guardrail and into the Mississippi. They never found him. Or his truck. The voice faded. Some say he's still trying to finish his run. Others say he's the one who pays the toll now. The keeper. Or maybe he's looking for a replacement. The voice dissolved completely into static. Smiling Jack. A keeper, a toll collector. Was that who I saw? The obsession now had a name. It felt more real. I started routing myself on long hauls that took me a little closer to Mississippi. It was like the bridge was a magnet pulling me back. I told myself I was just curious. But deep down a darker thought lurked. I had won the race once. Part of me wondered, could I win again? It took 6 months, but I finally got the call. A priority load and a chemical spill on the I-20 bridge had shut it down completely. The only way across was Highway 61. A storm was brewing. The sky was a bruised, heavy purple. As I took the turn off, the first fat drops began to splatter my windshield. By the time I saw the bridge, a full-blown thunderstorm was raging. Lightning flashed. The bridge wasn't humming. It was screaming, "All right, Jack." I whispered into the roaring dark. "Let's dance." Thump dash thumped up. My tires hit the deck. I looked. He was there. But he seemed different, darker, taller, more solid. I jammed my foot down. The engine screamed, but my rear wheels spun for a second on the slick metal grating before they caught. The truck fishtailed. Then we were flying. The rain was a blur. The lightning was a strobe light. In one flash, he was at the quarter mark. In the next, he was closer. This time, I watched him. His shoulders were slumped, his head bowed, as if he were carrying an immense, invisible weight. He looked tired. The halfway point was coming up. The truck was aquaplaning. I was losing speed. He was getting closer than last time. I was going to be late. I saw him lift his head in the next flash of lightning. There was no face, but I felt him look at me. A wave of profound sorrow and exhaustion washed over me, so powerful it almost made me take my foot off the gas. It was the soul of every trucker who ever lived and died on the road. I was 20 feet from the halfway point. He was 10. We were going to meet. With a primal roar, I yanked the wheel slightly and floored it. The cold hit my cab again, but this time it was like a physical blow. The cold of the deep river, of the grave. My mirror clipped in. Or rather, it passed through where his shoulders should have been. There was no impact, just an explosion of cold and the sudden, unmistakable smell of river mud and decay inside my cab. Then I was past him. Past the center. Thump. I hit the far bank and didn't stop. I drove for another hour before I dared to pull into a rest area. I got out and walked to my side mirror. It was fine, not a scratch, but covering the glass, thick and black in the glare of the lights, was a single, perfect handprint, made of wet, dark river mud. I cleaned the handprint off the mirror, but I couldn't wipe it from my mind. The second crossing changed me. The fear was gone. In its place was a kind of understanding. I realized the race isn't against him. It's against the weight, the burden of every driver who ever crossed that span. If you let it slow you down, if you let that exhaustion and sorrow overwhelm you, you won't make it. You'll slow to a stop, and you'll simply stop driving. I know this now. I'm an old-timer myself. My face is starting to look like a road map. I pass the stories on, because that's part of the deal. Which brings me to tonight. I'm sitting here in a greasy spoon. Across from me is a young kid. He's telling me about his next run, a hot load down to New Orleans. He mentions his dispatcher is rerouting him, sending him down an old highway. I take a slow sip of my coffee. I lean forward, just as Pops did for me. The kid stops talking, a little unnerved. Let me ask you something, kid, I say, my voice a low rumble. You ever run the old Highway 61 bridge, just south of Vicksburg?